how do we decide on the route we're going to go to get somewhere? We all have different ideas. Some of you just use the GPS. There's familiarity, that you have a preference as to type of roads, depending on everything. I'm in general a main roads kind of guy. I like my highways. Not a lot of twists and turns. I like the straight shot highways, 4-lane. Let me go a little bit faster. But hopefully those roads are in good shape. But anyway, we all have different ways, different roads we like to take. But there is one road that we're going to talk about today that I want to make sure we stay on, and that is indeed the Jesus road. So whether you prefer main roads or back roads, you'll always find your way on that Jesus road. Main roads, back roads, however you live your life, the Jesus road is the one we want to stay on. And why the heck are we talking about roads today, other than the fact that obviously we're in Wisconsin and it's road construction season in the summer. But Jesus has been actually indeed on the road to Jerusalem for quite some time. Really, his entire life leads up to him coming into Jerusalem. And today he continues on that road, but we're going to wrap up kind of the travel section today. And next week, starting chapter 11, he's going to enter into Jerusalem. But today, he takes a brief pause because of a man that is on the side of the road. We're going to hear about this man and then look at how we can see that man in our own lives, this guy that's on the side of the road, but then also how we can be like the guy that's on the side of the road. And the whole point, the overarching idea today is to be on that Jesus road, be on the road with Jesus. So we'll look at our story in two parts. It's a fairly short story, and then break it down into seeing others on the side of the road, and then how we find ourselves on that side of the road and taking the steps to get back on the road with Jesus. So we'll be in Mark 10, starting in verse 46. Again, we're going to wrap up Mark chapter 10 today, so we're at the very end. It'll be up on the screen here behind me, bookmarked on your tables. You want to use phones, tablets, computers, all great. I'll be in the NIV translation as usual. So we're going to start with Mark 10 with verses 46 to 48. It says this: Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." We're going to stop there. So we have Jesus and his disciples, and they come to Jericho on their way to Jerusalem. They're getting close. Jericho would be about 15 to 20 miles northeast of Jerusalem, which in Jesus' day, less than a day's walk. So in the scheme of things, they're getting fairly close. And there's a large crowd with him. These are probably people that will be called pilgrims, as they're going to be referred to. They're heading to Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. So they're all going this way, fairly large crowd, Jesus kind of leading the way. But then we enter our main character for today, and this is a fella named Bartimeus. And Bartimeus is blind, and he is sitting by the roadside begging. A physical ailment like blindness would have left him cast out of society. He couldn't work, couldn't provide for himself. So he would sit along the road. He would put his cloak out to collect alms. The alms would be basically people that would give to him as a beggar, the money they would leave him. And this was not an uncommon thing to see in this day and age. And then he hears that Jesus is coming by, and he shouts, "Son of David, have mercy on me." He's heard about who this Jesus guy is. He knows what Jesus has done, how Jesus has healed. And referring to Jesus as Son of David, there is a belief, there is a level of faith in Bartimeus that Jesus is indeed the Messiah. So Bartimeus cries out to Jesus. Now, he is totally the type of guy that needs Jesus and should be welcomed in. But those pilgrims, those people with Jesus following him, basically told him to shut up. Like, dude, you're ruining it for us. You're a nuisance. You're bothering us. They might think he's going to take Jesus away from what he's doing. But you got to hand it to our guy Bartimeus here. He just shouts louder and louder because he knows what Jesus is all about. Let's keep going and see how Jesus responds. Verses 49 to 52. Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up. On your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet, and he came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus along the road. And that wraps up chapter 10. So Jesus hears Bartimeus calling him, and he says, "Call him," meaning, tell this guy to come to me. So now the guys with Jesus, these pilgrims, now they changed their tune completely. They were annoyed before. Now they're like, dude, everything's great. Jesus wants you to come to him. Cheer up, get over here. It should have been their attitude from the beginning, but it wasn't. So Bartimaeus comes right over, and what does Bartimaeus do? He throws his cloak aside. This is significant. Don't miss this detail. Because his cloak is probably his one and only possession. It's his only means of covering himself up and maybe protecting himself. Also, what he did is he would spread his cloak out and collect his alms. So by throwing it aside, he also probably throws aside any money he has collected. Remember a few weeks ago, the rich young man. Jesus said, give all your money away and follow me. And he wouldn't do it. He turned away from Jesus because Jesus told him to give up his money. Bartimaeus, who has virtually nothing, tosses it aside and runs to Jesus. And then Jesus asks, what do you want me to do for you? Now, if you were here last week, we heard this same question. James and John, the son of Zebedee, come up to Jesus and say, Jesus, we want you to do whatever we ask. And Jesus says, okay, what do you want me to do? Their response last week is they wanted a place of honor, of status, next to Jesus in glory. Bartimaeus, all he says is, I want to see. I want to see. I want to be healed. I want to be saved. And Jesus responds with, go. Your faith has healed you. Healed meaning you're saved. His faith saved him for eternity because he's now a follower of Jesus, but also in the moment. He can see, he can rejoin society, he can work, he can provide for himself. He is restored to his community and welcomed into eternal community. Bartimaeus can see, and he immediately follows Jesus down the road and heads to Jerusalem with him. It's that Jesus road he's on. So for us, we need to start on this Jesus road by seeing the Bartimaeus on the side of the road. As you are driving, have you ever looked over and you've seen an accident on the side of the road, and as you're driving, you're looking? We all know this isn't exactly safe, right? And there's actually a term for an accident I found that as you're looking, if you cause a secondary accident, according to Google AI, they call that rubbernecking. So it's actually an accident cause. It's a secondary accident. And apparently that is the cause for 16% of secondary collisions, right? So the accident is there. We want to see. We want to know what happened as we're driving. Maybe we get ourselves in another little fender bender. And in driver's ed, we're taught, don't be distracted by the side of the road. But the Jesus road is very different. Seeing who and what is on the side of the road isn't a distraction to following Jesus. It's part of the description of following Jesus. We need to see those that can't see Jesus. We need to see those that don't want to see Jesus. We need to see those that are hard to see, and we need to see those that need to just be seen. Let's start with those that can't see Jesus. Maybe they can't see Jesus because they just don't care. They have no interest in seeing Jesus. Their blindness is really just apathy. And we need to see them. Get outside of any Christian bubble if we're in one and see the neighbors, the friends, the coworkers, our parents of our kids' friends, our baristas, our trainers, whoever. See them if they don't care about seeing Jesus at all. And get to know them. Just build a relationship with them. And you don't have to hide that you follow Jesus, but you don't have to hit them over the head with it right away. Just let them see Jesus through how you live your life around them and how you relate to them. Let them see Jesus through you, even if they don't realize they're seeing Jesus. So we need to see those that don't care to see Jesus. And then there's those that can't see Jesus, maybe because of past experience. They went through a difficult experience where it felt like God wasn't present. They went through loss or pain or struggle. Maybe they prayed about it, or they were prayed over about it, and it still went badly, and they just can't reconcile this good God we serve with what happened. Or maybe the past experience might have been caused by a church hurt or Christians that hurt them. And I'd love to say this doesn't happen, but the truth is we know it does. More than I'd like to admit. See, the church and Christians, followers of Jesus, should help people see Jesus, but there's a time where we actually do cause some of the blindness. So anybody in these situations, just listen. We've talked about listening. Listen to them. If they need to talk about it, sit with them. Own up to it if you've been part of it. But then demonstrate the goodness of God, the grace of God, and that Christians and the church should show people God, not take them away from it. Again, help people see Jesus just by seeing you, but it starts by us seeing them. Then there are those that are hard to see. Those like the actual Bartimaeus on the side of the road. Those that are there asking for help, that have the sign out. They're right there. We've driven by them in town here. And they can be really easy to look past or not look at. Maybe it's hard to see because we feel bad for them. We feel guilty. Or maybe there's some judgment about why they're in the situation they are. We need to see them because they matter. They matter to Jesus and need to be seen. There's a song called Things That Matter by Josiah Queen. And it says, I saw a woman standing off exit 85 with the same old jeans and a brand new cardboard sign. I didn't roll my window down, didn't even smile at her. When did I start missing the things that matter? Help me see the world through your eyes, till what breaks your heart is breaking mine. Slow me down, this world's moving faster. I don't want to miss the things that matter. People that are hard to see matter just as much as anyone else. See them, smile at them, wave at them, pray for them. We may not be able to stop and practically help every single person, but we can smile, we can see them, we can wave, and you can always pray for them. So let's see those that are difficult to see. Then there are some that are difficult to see because they kind of seem like a nuisance. Maybe they're annoying. Maybe they're a lot of work. In some ways, we're all a lot of work. But it's hard, maybe, to see them. This is how initially these guys, the pilgrims on the road, that's how they saw Bartimeus. They're like, dude, will you stop? You're distracting us from following Jesus. What you're doing, maybe it's going to disturb Jesus, and we're not going to get what we need out of this. You're hard to see. You're kind of just a pain. And when we find ourselves having that attitude, we need to take time to see Jesus more clearly. Because that annoying behavior, that nuisance, that difficulty, maybe that's them reaching out to try and see and find Jesus. Maybe that's reaching out to you to try and be seen by you. Reach back and see them like Jesus. See the Bartimeus in our lives. Call to the Bartimeus in our lives because Jesus calls him. Jesus wants him to follow him too. So we have to see the Bartimeus in our lives. Okay, we want to see the Bartimeus, see those that need to be seen, need to see Jesus, and they can see Jesus through us. But then let's flip it a little bit. What about when we're like Bartimeus and we find ourselves on the roadside? What does Bartimeus do? He calls out, he yells for Jesus. Have you ever really been somewhere and you're just like shouting out to somebody and like yelling for them to see you? I thought back to the great scene in the Christmas cinematic classic movie Elf, starring Will Ferrell. If you remember the scene, there's Buddy the Elf, and he's got his half-brother Michael, and he's going to pick him up from school. He wants to go meet him at school, and he's sitting on the step. And Michael comes out of school with all his bros, looking all cool and stuff. And Buddy does the, Michael, it's me. Hey, it's me. It's Buddy. I'm over here. And Michael's like, oh my gosh. I can't wait for the day that my kids see me like that. It's going to be awesome, because it's coming. But he's like, Michael, it's me. And then eventually they get together, and we have the awesome snowball fight scene. But the point is, Michael's embarrassed, and he walks away. But good old Buddy kept yelling like he had a megaphone. He's that loud yelling. Bartimeus was like Buddy the Elf. He kept yelling. He didn't care what anybody else said. He knew, I'm blind, Jesus can help, so I'm going to yell for him. Bartimeus was aware of Jesus and aware of what kept him on the roadside in life, so he called to Jesus. He knew what kept him on the roadside. What keeps you on the roadside? What keeps you from being able to fully and freely follow Jesus? Bartimeus had a physical ailment that put him on the roadside. Maybe that's it for you. Something that's physical, health-related. It just weighs you down completely. You're sick. You're in pain. Could be mental health. We know this is near and dear to my heart. The anxiety, the panic attacks, the depression all keep you from feeling like you can fully and freely follow Jesus because it just feels like they're all consuming. Any sort of internal struggle. Maybe there's emotional pain you're dealing with from either the past or the present. There's disappointment or stress from work or from relationship. There's pride, thinking I can just manage everything on my own. I might need help, but I'm not going to ask for it. Or there's complacency. Everything is just what it is. Could be better, could be worse. Yeah, I could get better, but meh, I don't care. These internal struggles. We could go on and on about internal struggles. But it's anything at all that keeps us anchored and bound to that side of the road. And the first thing we have to do is honestly admit what keeps us on the roadside. We have to look at ourselves and see it. Something that holds us back from freely following Jesus. And don't beat yourself up over it. I don't think that's not the point. The point is to see it and take ownership of it and admit that it's there. Then call to Jesus. Don't let Jesus walk on by without shouting to him. Who cares what anybody else says? If they tell you to stop or think you're a nuisance, maybe they feel like you're a lot of work. Well, guess what? Jesus loves to work. Yell to Jesus when you need him. Involve Jesus in whatever it is. Don't compartmentalize struggles and say, okay, this one I'll go to Jesus about and I'll pray about this one. This one, physical one, I'll just work on myself here. This one, I just need to talk to this person. Bring Jesus into all of them. It's all together. Bring Jesus in and go to the doctor. Bring Jesus in and go to a therapist. Bring Jesus in, take medicine. Bring Jesus in and work on stress. Bring Jesus in and go to the gym and eat healthier. It's not an either or. We can involve Jesus in all of these. I've talked to many other people and even other pastors that I get to talk to. We've talked about things we haven't really prayed about for whatever reason. And I talked with one guy recently, and we both started laughing about it, like, why the heck haven't we prayed about that? It's like maybe we think we're over-spiritualizing it, or it's not God's concern, or it's not what Jesus is all about. Well, guess what? Jesus is about us. Jesus is about you. So if whatever it is keeps you off of the Jesus road, then he wants to hear about it and know about it. You can always bring Jesus in. If we want to see Jesus through our struggle, we have to invite Jesus into that struggle, regardless of what it is. We won't get back on the road with Jesus if we don't call to him from the roadside. So we call to him, and then we need to listen to him calling us back. Let's think about when somebody calls you. And I don't know what made me think of this week, but in a world of text messaging and direct messages, I get weirded out when my phone actually rings. Like my ringer's off, but it vibrates. Like I'm sitting there at my desk and it starts buzzing. Like, why is somebody calling me? Like it throws me off. If I don't recognize the number, I don't answer. It has to go to voicemail, and if you don't leave me a voicemail, they don't get called back. And there's been an uptick in spam calls, I feel like, recently. I looked at my phone, and I had 10 calls this week that I let go to voicemail that I didn't respond to. And there were far less that I actually did answer when people called me. So it's weird. But how do we respond when Jesus calls? When Jesus calls from the road to you on the roadside, how do you respond? Do you let him go to voicemail or silence the call? Or do you pick it up on the first ring? That's what Bartimeus did. He jumped up, he tossed his cloak, and he asked to be healed. He answered on that first ring. Now, it seems to think, well, it's obviously easy. Jesus called him, he was blind, he could be healed. But it also had some responsibility with it. He got healed, but he tossed aside familiarity. He tossed aside what might have felt like a sense of safety and security to take on the freedom Jesus offered. I was reading New Testament commentator N.T. Wright on this, and he's like, the healing and the freedom and salvation came with no longer being blind and needing to beg, but now he's not begging. Now the responsibility is work for money. You were given, now you're going to give to those in need. You're free, but it's going to be unfamiliar. Now Bartimeus responds beautifully and admirably and says, heck yeah, I want that. He jumps on the road with Jesus, even if it's unfamiliar or a little scary. He probably would have needed time to adjust to that new life. It wasn't going to be smooth sailing right away, but he was willing to take the step of following Jesus in freedom. So the easy response for us is to say, of course, I want healing and freedom from Jesus, and we should want that. We should want to be free from whatever is holding us back and keeping us on that roadside. But there are times in the struggle that we might find a sense of security or even safety in the struggle, even if it's hard. I'm a routine guy. We've talked about this many times. I love structure and routine. So for me, it can be easy to say, well, this thing is hard, but at least it's familiar. At least I get it. At least I know what's going to happen. It's consistent. So even as we say, I want to let it go, part of it still holds us. It's like my kids are in swimming and they do their blast off where you push off from the side of the wall. And it's like we're going to blast off and go off into the deep end free, but we're still holding on to that wall behind us because it's a little safe. It's a little secure. What we feel like holds us back can give us a false sense of security, and it is indeed false. The security comes in Jesus. The freedom comes in that security in Jesus. Yes, we will need to process with Jesus. We need to heal with Jesus. We need times where we are just sitting alone with Jesus. But at the same time, take the freedom that comes from Jesus and live that for him. It might come with uncertainty or unfamiliarity. It might come with change. It might even be hard. But remember, as always, what we tell the kids, you can do hard things. We can do hard things with Jesus. And you probably won't forget what had kept you on that roadside, but it's not keeping you there anymore, and that's the point. You are free to fully follow Jesus. The pain, the struggle might not instantly all go away, But now you've given it to Jesus, and you're willing to get up off the roadside and get back on the road. You're moving with Jesus and not being held back by the struggle or pain, even if it's still there. Bartimeus got on the road and followed Jesus to Jerusalem. Will you do the same thing? Accepting Jesus, accepting his grace, accepting his freedom, and following him with your life wherever it is he leads at the pace he leads. Here's the thing. Jesus isn't going to ask you to sprint unless he's sprinting right there next to you. He's not going to ask you to climb a mountain if he's not getting all his gear on and climbing with you too. So if it seems unnerving to take on that freedom with Jesus and jump on the road, look at who's on the road Bartimeus jumped on. Now, the obvious answer is, well, Jesus is on the road. It's Jesus' road. Yes, that's great. But who else? A whole bunch of others that were following him to Jerusalem. We're all part of a group, a community that follows Jesus on his road. We can help each other on the road, support each other on the road, follow Jesus on the road together. It's you, it's Jesus, and it's other people that follow Jesus. You're not alone when you get on that Jesus road. So remember, the Jesus road will wrap up here. The Jesus road is one that sees those on the roadside, those that need to be seen, those that aren't seen, those that are difficult to see, and those that need to see Jesus. See them. See the Bartimeus in your life. Don't look past them. Make eye contact. Engage with them. And the Jesus road is one we will find ourselves on the roadside of at times. We all have something that feels like it's holding us back or keeping us down and keeping us from following Jesus fully. Admit what that is and call to Jesus about that. If you haven't invited Jesus into whatever that struggle or hurt is, do so today. Bring Jesus in. And then get up and get on the road with Jesus, because it's a road that Jesus calls us to be on. Respond to that call. Take the freedom he offers and walk with him in the process of healing and dealing with the pain. Follow him to wherever and whatever he leads in fullness and freedom, and stay on that Jesus road. Let's pray. God, I thank you for today. God, I thank you for the story of Bartimeus. And God, the faith that he showed to call out to Jesus, to respond to Jesus, and to get on the road with him. God, I pray that we would do the same thing. That we would take stock of what's keeping us on the road, our struggles, our pain, whatever it is, God. That we would give that to you. If we haven't surrendered that to you, God, I pray that we would lift it up to you today and invite you into that. God, to help us see you more clearly by giving you and inviting you into that struggle. I pray that we would do that. Be willing to take on any unfamiliarity that comes with it. And God, I'd be willing to continue to follow you. And God, I pray that we would see the Bartimeus in our lives. That we would see those on the side of the road that need to see you, that can't see you, that don't want to see you for whatever reason. That we would see them. We would look at them and we would engage with them, God. If nothing else, God, just to let them see you by seeing us as we live our lives for you. So God, I thank you for today. I thank you for the road that we can always follow you on. And we pray this in your name. Amen.